The Knights Templar, were a Catholic Christian military and monastic order active during the 2nd and 13th centuries, famous for their enormous wealth and central role in the Crusades, but whose fate ended tragically. Origin and basic purpose: the organization was founded in 1119 AD in Jerusalem, immediately after the First Crusade. Its primary stated goal was to protect Christian pilgrims who were being attacked by bandits as they traveled between ports, such as Jaffa, and holy sites in Palestine. They took their name from their first headquarters, which was given to them in the area of the Temple Mount, in Jerusalem, which the Crusaders called the Temple of Solomon. Nature and organization: the organization combined the characteristics of a monk and a warrior, a monastic vow. They adhered to the vow of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and their lives were harsh and disciplined. Distinctive appearance: they wore a white robe with a large red cross on the chest or shoulder. Hierarchical structure: they were led by a supreme leader, grandmaster, and most members were not fighting knights, but civilians who managed the organization's logistical and economic affairs. Sources of power and wealth: they were not really poor. Despite their vows of poverty, the organization became one of the richest entities in Europe through 1. Massive donations. Land and money from the kings, nobility, and commoners of Europe poured in to support them. 2. Papal privileges. In 1139, Pope Innocent II granted them almost complete independence, exemption from taxes, loyalty only to the Pope, and freedom to cross borders. 3. Early financial innovations: they created a system similar to traveler's checks or a safe deposit box, whereby the pilgrim deposited his money in Europe and received it in the Holy Land, which led to the accumulation of huge capital. The tragic end: persecution and dissolution. After the Crusaders lost the Holy Land and the decline in popular support, they turned to scapegoats. Debts and ambitions: King Philip IV of France owed them huge sums of money and coveted their wealth. Arrest and torture: on October 13, 1307, hundreds of knights were arrested in France on trumped-up charges such as heresy, and their confessions were extracted under torture. Execution and dissolution: many were burned at the stake, most notably the last commander-in-chief, Jacques de Molay. Under pressure from the French king, Pope Clement V issued a decree officially dissolving the organization on March 22, 1312. Myths and heritage: their mysterious end and enormous wealth gave birth to many legends that are still alive in popular culture, such as guardianship of the Holy Grail or the Shroud of Turin. Possessing a huge treasure that has not been found. Their survival as a secret organization that affects the world, an idea promoted by some conspiracy theories. In short, the Knights Templar were a unique military, financial and political force of the Middle Ages, combining religious sanctity, military action and economic prowess, and ended by a struggle for power and money, turning them into an enduring legend. If you are interested in more specific details, such as the financial innovations they developed or key battles they fought, I can provide you with more information. Edmund Kemper is an American serial killer known as the Student Killer or the Giant. Race and overview: basic information: birth, December 18, 1948, in Burbank, California. Height, 208 centimeters, 6 feet 10 inches, earning him the nickname the Giant. Status: arrested in 1973 and serving a life sentence. Crimes: 1. Early crimes: murdered his grandparents at age 15, 1964, and was sent to a mental institution. 2. Serial crimes: 1972 to 1973. After his release, he murdered 6 young women, college students and dropouts, in the Santa Cruz, California area. 3. Additional crimes: murdered his mother and her friend in 1973 before surrendering to the police. Personality traits: high intelligence, IQ score of 145. Psychological disorder: diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder and paranoia. Complex relationship with his mother: his relationship with her was troubled, and he considered her the primary motivation for his crimes. Arrest and trial: he surrendered to the police in 1973 after his crimes. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life imprisonment due to the abolition of the death penalty in California at the time. He is considered a model of the organized serial killer who plans his crimes. In popular culture, his character appeared in the Netflix series Mindhunter, which portrayed his ability to analyze the psychology of serial killers due to his intelligence and understanding of police operations. Edmund Kember represents an important case study in criminal psychology because of his intelligence, his violent crimes, and his willingness to cooperate with investigators to understand the psychology of serial killers. Robert Bowers was the gunman who carried out the Pittsburgh synagogue attack on October 27, 2018, killing 11 Jewish worshippers and wounding 6 others at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. This attack is considered one of the deadliest anti-Semitic attacks in American history. Brief background, motivation: Bowers expressed extreme anti-Semitism and anti-immigrant conspiracy theories, such as the invasion theory promoted by the far right. Attack: he stormed the synagogue during Shabbat services, opening fire on the worshippers. Trial and sentencing: he was convicted on 63 federal charges, including 11 counts of hate-motivated murder. In August 2023, he was sentenced to death following a federal trial. Impact: the attack deeply shocked the American and global Jewish community and sparked a broader debate about the rise of anti-Semitism, hate speech, and gun violence in the United States. The attack underscores the deadly dangers of hate speech and extremism, and its memory remains a wound in America's conscience and a catalyst for the fight against anti-Semitism and all forms of bigotry. If you are looking for information about the victims or efforts to combat anti-Semitism, I can provide that as well. Ratko Mladic is a Bosnian Serb military commander, internationally condemned and dubbed the Butcher of Bosnia for his role in genocide and war crimes during the Bosnian War, 1992 to 1995. Here is the most important information about him: previous position, Chief of Staff of the Army of the Republika Srpska. The most prominent charges: genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes. Judicial status: he has been sentenced to life imprisonment since 2017, and his final appeal was rejected in 2021. Main crimes: Srebrenica massacre, July 1995, directly supervising the killing of more than 8,000 Bosnian Muslim men and boys. Siege of Sarajevo, 1992 to 1995, leading the longest siege of a city in modern warfare, with indiscriminate bombing and targeting of civilians. Pivotal moments: 1995, an international arrest warrant was issued against him. 2011, he was arrested in Serbia after 16 years on the run, then handed over to the court in The Hague. 2012 to 2017, the trial that ended with his conviction. Details of the trial and conviction: the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia convicted Mladic in November 2017 on 10 out of 11 charges: conviction of genocide, related to Srebrenica, 5 crimes against humanity, including persecution and murder, and 4 violations of the laws of war. Acquittal of a second charge of genocide, not proven in other areas outside Srebrenica. Basis for conviction: proof of his leadership responsibility for the crimes committed by his soldiers, which made him legally responsible for the Srebrenica massacre and the siege of Sarajevo. Final appeal: in June 2021, the International Court rejected his appeal and finally upheld the life imprisonment sentence. Brief historical background: birth and career: he was born in 1942, joined the Yugoslav Army in 1965 and rose in it. His father was a Yugoslav partisan, resistance to occupation, and was killed in World War II by Nazi-allied Croats. Rising with the war, after the disintegration of Yugoslavia, he led units against the Croats, then was appointed commander of the Bosnian Serb army upon Bosnia's independence in 1992. Hate speech: he was recorded making statements inciting violence, such as describing his duties in Bosnia as cleansing Turkish rubble, in an insulting reference to Muslims. After the war, he lived in Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, under the protection of President Slobodan Milosevic until 2001, then disappeared until his arrest in 2011. Some Bosnian Serbs see Mladic as a national hero, which the United Nations condemned and urged to prevent the glorification of war criminals. If you are interested in understanding the broader context, I can give you a summary of the Bosnia and Herzegovina War, 1992 to 1995, in which these events took place. Žigaud Youssef, 1921–1956, was one of the most prominent leaders of the Algerian Liberation Revolution against French colonialism. He is considered the main architect of the historic attacks of August 20, 1955, which changed the course of the revolution. A quick overview of his life. Birth, February 18, 1921, in the village of Samandou, currently Constantine State. Martyrdom, September 23, 1956, in Sidi Mesgish, Skikda Province. Rank, he was appointed colonel in the National Liberation Army and a member of the National Council of the Algerian Revolution after the Soumam Conference. Revolutionary name, he was known among his comrades as Si Ahmed. Main stages of struggle, formation and upbringing. He grew up in a religious and patriotic family, and studied in French schools and elementary schools, but colonial conditions prevented him from continuing his education. He worked as a blacksmith, which later helped him make tools such as a prison key that helped him escape. Before the revolution, he joined the Algerian People's Party and then in the private organization, the Armed Secret Wing. He was arrested in 1950, but he escaped from Annaba prison by making a key from a piece of iron. He was among the historic group of 22 that sparked the revolution. His role in the armed revolution, since 1954, he became the commander of the 2nd Region, North Constantine, after the martyrdom of Daidouche Mourad. Architect and planner of the attacks of August 20, 1955, comprehensive and popular attacks in broad daylight, aimed at bringing the revolution into the international arena and breaking the French policy of isolation. He actively participated in the Soumam Conference, August 1956, which organized the structures of the revolution. Personal and leadership qualities: he speaks few words, many actions, very humble, and enjoys the prestige of a leader. Disciplined and strict, he slept sitting up and always remained in a ready position. A practical innovator, he used to recycle used bullets, and he mastered Arabic and French, which helped him in political and military communication. He was a knight riding a grey horse. The end of his career, Zighoud Youssef was martyred on September 23, 1956, at the age of 35, after he was ambushed by the French army while returning from a mission following the fasting conference. French newspapers at the time described him as the leader of the rebel gangs and the organizer of the massacres of August 20, 1955, which is an indirect acknowledgement of his pivotal role. His legacy and honor: the municipality of his birthplace bears his name, Zighoud Youssef Municipality. Its history and struggle are taught to children as a symbol of sacrifice and patriotism. Historians consider him the hero who changed the course of the Algerian Revolution through the attacks of August 1955, which gave it a popular and international dimension. If you are interested in a particular aspect of his life, such as the details of his dramatic prison escape or the strategic impact of the 1955 attacks, I can provide more detail. Daidouche Mourad, 1927–1955, was one of the founders of the Algerian Revolution and a historical leader who fell in battle. His short life shaped the course of the struggle for independence. He was born on July 13, 1927, in Mouradia, Algiers, to a family of Kabyle origin. He became involved in political activism early, joining the Algerian People's Party in 1942 at the age of 15. His brief but eventful career included, before 1954, he joined the Special Organization, OS, the military wing of the Movement for the Triumph of Democratic Liberties, MTLD, and was one of its most active members. After the organization was discovered, he was sentenced in absentia to 10 years in prison. In 1954, he co-founded the Revolutionary Committee for Unity and Action, CRUA, a secret committee that paved the way for the revolution. He was among the group of 22 who decided to launch the revolution and later became one of the 6 founding members of the National Liberation Front, FLN. He was appointed commander of the 2nd Region, North Constantine. January 18, 1955, he was martyred in the Battle of Boukirkir, Dur Eswadek, near Constantine during a confrontation with French forces. He was only 27 years old, becoming the first regional commander to fall in the revolution. His legacy and tribute: Daidouche Mourad is considered a national symbol in Algeria. He is regarded as one of the historical leaders for founding the National Liberation Front, FLN, and his early military leadership. He has been honored in several ways. A municipality in Constantine province is named after him, and one of the most famous streets in Algiers bears his name, Didouche Mourad Road, formerly Michelet Street. His memory is officially commemorated, with events and seminars held on the anniversary of his martyrdom to honor his legacy. If you are interested in specific aspects of the history of the Algerian Revolution or the lives of other prominent figures, I can help you find more information. Friedrich Barbarossa, one of the greatest emperors of the Holy Roman Empire in the Middle Ages, ruled from 1155 until his death in 1190. His surname Barbarossa means red-bearded in Italian. Basic overview of his life. Full name, Friedrich I Barbarossa. His life period: he was born approximately in 1122, and died on June 10, 1190. His origins: the son of Frederick II, Duke of Swabia, of the Hohenstaufen dynasty, and his mother, Judith, of the rival Welf dynasty. This merger made him an acceptable candidate for the throne. His most prominent titles: Holy Roman Emperor, King of Germany, Romans, King of Italy, King of Burgundy, and Duke of Swabia before that. The main stations of his reign after his election as King of Germany in 1152, his rule focused on three axes. 1. The struggle for power in Italy. He launched 6 major campaigns over 3 decades to subjugate the rich northern Italian cities and reimpose imperial authority on them. He faced fierce resistance from the Civil League of Lombards, and was defeated at the Battle of Legnano in 1176. The conflict ended with a settlement in the Peace of Constance in 1183, granting cities-wide freedoms in exchange for recognition of nominal imperial sovereignty. 2. Managing the relationship with the papacy. He sought to assert the superiority of imperial authority over the papacy, which led to a long conflict with Pope Alexander III. The conflict reached its peak with the election of a loyal pope, Pascal III, and his exposure to excommunication. He eventually reconciled with Pope Alexander III in 1177 in the Peace of Venice. 3. Strengthening central power in Germany. He used smart concessions to please powerful princes, such as granting his cousin, Henry the Lion, the Duchy of Saxony and Bavaria. He revived Roman law, Justinian Code, to strengthen the state's authority and system. His rule contributed to strengthening the sense of German national identity. Participation in the Crusades and death. Frederick participated in 2 crusades that had a significant impact on his fate. The Second Crusade, 1147 to 1149. He participated in it as Duke of Swabia, accompanied by his uncle, King Conrad III. The campaign was a militarily failure, but it strengthened his position. Third Crusade and death, 1189 to 1190. He led a huge German army overland to the Holy Land. On June 10, 1190, he drowned in the Salif River, present-day Göksu, in Turkey while crossing. His sudden death caused most of his army to disband and frustrated the campaign. Burial place and legacy. After his death, an attempt was made to preserve his body, or parts of it, for transport, and it was reported that he was buried in several places: St. Peter's Church in Antioch, flesh; Tyre Cathedral, bones; and a church in Tarsus, heart and entrails. He became a German national legend in the 19th century, as it was said that he was sleeping on Mount Kyffhauser and would return to save Germany in times of need. His image and title were later used for political purposes, including by the Nazi regime, which dubbed Operation Barbarossa the invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941. Friedrich Barbarossa's most notable achievement was in promoting the idea of empire and German identity, although his unbridled ambitions in Italy ran up against the limits of political reality. If you are interested in more details about any of these aspects, such as details of his battles in Italy or his legend in German folklore, I can provide more information. Youssef Ben Khadda, full name, Ben Youssef Ben Khadda, is an Algerian politician and head of the interim government. He played a pivotal role in the history of Algeria, from the struggle against colonialism to the stage of independence. Here is the most important information about him. Basic information. Full name, Ben Youssef Ben Khadda's birth, February 23, 1920, in Al-Baroukia, Media Province, Algeria. Death, February 4, 2003, in Algiers, at the age of 82 years. Primary profession, pharmacist, graduated with a doctorate in pharmacy from the University of Algiers. Political and revolutionary activity, early struggle, he joined the Algerian People's Party, PPA, in 1942, and was arrested in 1943 because he refused compulsory conscription in World War II and was subjected to torture. He became Secretary General of the Movement for the Victory of Democratic Liberties between 1951 and 1954. His role in the Algerian Revolution, he joined the National Liberation Front, FLN, after the outbreak of the revolution in 1954. He was a close advisor to leader Abain Ramadan, and was appointed after the Fasting Conference, 1956, as a member of the National Council of the Algerian Revolution and the Coordination and Implementation Committee, the first nucleus of the interim government. Outstanding contributions, he contributed to the founding of Al-Mujahid newspaper, the mouthpiece of the revolution, and the General Union of Algerian Workers, UGTA. He also participated in drafting the Algerian national anthem, Kasma presidency of the interim government and independence appointment. He was appointed Minister of Social Affairs in the interim government, September 1958, then became Prime Minister of the interim government of the Algerian Republic on August 9, 1961, succeeding Farhat Abbas. Negotiations. He led the final negotiations with France that led to the signing of the Evian Accords and the declaration of a ceasefire on March 19, 1962. Disagreements and resignation. After independence, a political crisis broke out between the interim government he led and the foreign-backed border army led by Ahmed Ben Bella. In September 1962, he chose to resign and step down from the political scene to avoid civil war and preserve the unity of the country. His later life and legacy, retirement and return. After resigning, he devoted himself to his profession as a pharmacist. He later returned to the scene as an opposition figure, and in 1976 he signed, along with other historical leaders, a statement calling for the election of a constituent assembly, which led to his being placed under house arrest until 1979. Reform attempts. In the 1990s, he tried, through the Movement of the Nation, El Umma, which he founded, to search for a national consensus among the different movements, but the attempt did not succeed. Legacy and writings. He wrote several important historical books about the Algerian Revolution, most notably, The Origins of November 1, 1954, 1989. He died on February 4, 2003. He was held in a huge funeral and buried in the Sidi Yahya Cemetery in Algiers. Ben Khatta is remembered as a statesman who preferred the interests of the country over power, and his name was associated with his early call for democracy, as he used to say, "The true source of power is the people." If you are interested in specific details, such as the contents of his writings or more details about the negotiations with France, I can look up more information for you. Nasser Ben Chera, 1804–1884, was an Algerian leader and mujahid, considered the longest-serving leader of the Algerian popular resistance against the French occupation. His revolution lasted for more than 25 years, 1851–1875. A brief overview of his life and upbringing, lineage and origins. He belonged to the Mamra, Arba, tribe of the Hilalian Confederation near Lagouat. He grew up in a family of leaders, as his father and grandfather were sheikhs of the tribe. Characteristics. He was nicknamed the Navigator of the Desert due to his knowledge of its terrain. He was fair-skinned with thick eyebrows, commanding presence, and skilled in marksmanship. He wore a face covering and turban in battle, similar to Amir Abdelkader. His jihadist career, the beginning of the revolution, he refused the position of Khalifa, representative, under the authority of the occupation, and was arrested in 1851 near Bugra. However, he escaped and joined Sharif Muhammad bin Abdullah in Ouargla to begin the armed struggle. Scope of his activities. His movement was not limited to the Algerian Sahara. He also used southern Tunisia, Nefta, Tozeur, as a base for launching raids and gathering supporters and ammunition, until the Bey of Tunis forced him to leave. Major alliances. He participated in the major revolts of the 19th century. He was with the Ould Sidi Cheikh, 1864, and with El Mokrani and El Haddad, 1871. His activities extended from Lagouat and Ouargla to El Minia, Ain Sulla, and Tunis. Personal life. He married 3 times, first to the daughter of the Sultan of Lagwat, then to the daughter of the Sultan of Wargla, who bore him Muhammad and Ibn Shara, and then to a woman from the Idrisid family, who bore him Farhat, Yehya, and 3 daughters. End and legacy. He died in Damascus in 1884 after being exiled from Tunisia to Beirut. In his honor, the municipality of Ben Nasser Ben Shara in the Lagwat province has been named after him since 1985. Mohamed Boudia, 1932–1973, was a unique Algerian activist who combined the stage with guerrilla warfare. He was the only one to move from leading armed operations for the Algerian National Liberation Front, FLN, in France to becoming the commander of special operations for the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, in Europe. Here are his most prominent milestones: the Algerian Revolution and Theatre, born in the Kasbah, February 24, 1932. His most famous operation was the bombing of oil pipelines in Marseille, 1958, for which he was sentenced to 20 years of hard labor but managed to escape in 1961. After independence, Ahmed Ben Bella appointed him the first director of the Algerian National Theatre, 1963. He also founded the newspapers November and Algeria This Evening. Turning to Palestine, he left Algeria after the 1965 coup. In Cuba, he met Wadi Haddad and decided to dedicate his expertise to the Palestinian cause. He enrolled at Patrice Lumumba University, Moscow, where he recruited the internationally renowned Carlos, the Jackal. The mastermind in Europe, he returned to Paris under the alias Abu Diameter. By day, he appeared theatrical, but by night, he was a commander, coordinating with the Red Brigades and the Japanese Red Army. His most notable operations included the bombing of the Italy-Austria oil pipeline, 1972, losses amounting to $2.5 billion. The Munich operation, 1972, he hosted and hid the perpetrators. Planning the bombing of the Chonat Center and the Rotterdam refinery. Assassination. He was assassinated by Mossad in Operation Wrath of God in retaliation for Munich. He was nicknamed the Man of 1,000 Faces due to his multiple identities. He was assassinated on June 28, 1973, by a blue Renault 16 car bomb in Paris. His legacy. Carlos named the Orly Airport operation after himself. Despite his disagreements with Houari Boumediene, he was allowed to be buried in the El Khedr Cemetery, Algiers. He is a rare case of an Algerian fighter who led the revolution with a pistol in one hand and a pen in the other, before becoming a Palestinian icon in Europe.